are now tuned into the best damn, it's not a recap show anymore. Maybe we'll recap some sports stories, so then possibly you could call it a recap. It is still Tell Me About It. It's a little bit of a different format these days. We're going to have all of the contributors from United Football Media, rotating basis in and out, bringing the stuff that they want to bring to the table and tell us about. We got 2 empty boxes down at the middle because you never know who might be showing up at any time. Right now, to start off, we got Josh joining us from the cow pasture, the Brahma bullpen, my favorite and yours. And of course, our man who was faithfully for years put it down on the PAWD podcast for those Michigan Panthers FBI tugboat, also in the house. It's a beautiful thing to get everybody together. This week, now most weeks, it's going to be a lot of every kind of football. It's Tell Me About It. It's football issues. Bring whatever you want to the table. But this week, we've got quite a bit of cleanup to do with UFL subjects because some things went down this week. First and foremost, everybody's favorite topic. I guess we could do a little bit of cleanup throughout the season, as it never ended up getting officially announced at the championship game like some people had assumed it might. But there are some clues out there of what might be the deal with expansion. Oh, I got everybody's attention now. It's everyone's favorite subject. Possible expansion. So first and foremost, the first thing I want to do, because I don't want to forget to do this rant. Because when me and Josh did this last year, we talked about the TV markets and how that based into what would be good places to put teams. As far as what you would be looking at where do we want to put teams? We want to put teams where people watch it. Which would be sound logic in every case except for one. Clearly, since the TV markets came out, and number one by a decent margin was Birmingham, Alabama. And what I found humorous about this is everybody, all these Stallions folks, and I know some good Stallions folks out there. I just want to say that. And I'm gonna bring them up in a minute. All these Stallions folks wanted to pump out their chests about that, and I said, well, you can, but this kind of ends the whole billboard conversation, right? Because all this time we've been talking about how nobody comes to the Birmingham games, how nobody comes to the Stallions games, what the hell is going on? And I always hear about from all of these Stallions fans, well, there's no billboards. There's no billboards on I-70. There's no billboards. There's no advertising. There's no. So you mean to tell me that these people watch the games on TV, but don't know that they can go to them live? Roll Tide, right?
They are from Alabama. Maybe they get lost on their way to the stadium.
If you write down directions for these people, it's sometimes a certain percentage,
So that's the number one TV market. Otherwise, though, the TV markets kind of match up with the top levels of attendance for the league. Makes sense. A couple of things that have played out kind of the way that we've talked to. There was a rumor, Tug, it was our guy Brandon in the chat who said he heard it from, you'll have to straighten me out on the details here. I believe it was the person who does the. Are we allowed to even say this? I don't know. Sources. If there's only one episode of this kind of Tell Me About It, then maybe we weren't allowed to say it. I think it was somebody who dealt with the trading cards for the UFL who said, mark it down for sure. Seattle Sea Dragons are coming back in the near future. There's one. Two. This is one me and Josh harped on a lot in the last time we talked about this. New Orleans was the number 2 TV market. Yep. New Orleans has history with the USFL, with the Breakers. The Breakers were very popular. They have a UFL ready stadium in the Tulane Stadium. Very, very nice, very new, perfect size to put a UFL team in. So that's there. And lastly, Oklahoma had 2 markets in the top 20, both Tulsa and Oklahoma City. And recently there was a trademark filed for, what was it, the Tulsa somethings. Basically a trademark that the UFL filed for an Oklahoma that would be an Oklahoma-based team. To me, Tulsa, the Tulsa University, again, it's a little bit small, but for the UFL, it's fine. It's good, actually. I prefer smaller stadiums. That right there. And overall, I would say by this point, if there's been no official announcement of expansion, I don't know if we're getting expansion in 2026. That's what everybody kind of assumed was happening. But as pointed out in our group chat and our guy Ace, who interviewed Danny, the owners of the UFL and CEO, and they said, we haven't made a concrete determination on when it's happening. It'll happen when the time is right for it to happen. Basically was their answer. So expansion thoughts on all that. What do we think there, Josh?
Ooh, I get to go before Tugboat. How about that? Hey, two things. One, the league put out requests for proposals from cities. Now, there hasn't been any release or confirmation as to which cities responded to this request. So when speaking to Ace and you read the rumors, the whole thing about expansion actually happening in 2026, 2 teams and then 2 teams in 2027, that came from a post from Mike Mitchell that he claims he's getting from a league source. Of course, he didn't divulge his source. Then other people have taken and run with that, and it's been a topic of discussion. The league itself never actually said when it was going to happen. So if it doesn't happen, it's not like they recanted on it. But what I would say is, when the league did do the original release, hey, we're taking proposals, the first thing they should have put in there was something about no timeline has been established. So people like us and Mike Mitchell and whoever else needs talking points wouldn't perpetuate something that then might not happen, because what we want to avoid is, hey, they said they were going to expand in 2026. They didn't. The league's folded. We need to focus on positive. So I think half of the problem is the messaging at the beginning where they ask for proposals. Then you don't ask for proposals if you're not ready to take them. Why? If you're legitimately not ready to take the proposal, why even put it out there? Just wait. So that's also a little bit with the league messaging. You come down to championship game, then the league messaging is, hey, we're looking at it, but we're not guaranteeing we're going to do anything. So you had this transition of messaging change 3 times throughout the season.
Yep.
You never really hear about that from NFL, right? When NFL something comes out, that crap is out and it's legit and it's done. So that's something maybe we need to clean up a little bit. I do like having the talking points and the potential for expansion. I think it's great. The Tulsa market was one of the markets I was going to talk about. It has high TV ratings, but, they have that indoor football league that launched up there in Tulsa, and then they broke like the record for indoor football league attendance. And then there was people in social media from Tulsa, like the local fans, that I started checking into their accounts and messaging them and stuff. They're basically saying, hey, man, this is an IFL city. I don't think we'll support a UFL team, so don't come here. And of course, that's just fans. You go back and forth. None of that is legit. I'm just telling you my one interaction. So that's my thought on expansion. I love New Orleans and I love Seattle. And I just wish, if you're going to put out proposals, you should be serious. And they may be serious, but if you're serious, you should have a timeline.
Tugger, what do you think, man? Timelines, what's going on with the league, and those 3 markets that seem the most ripe for this possibly happening?
Yeah, so we're talking Tulsa, Oklahoma City, and Seattle, right? Correct. Okay, gotcha. I heard plenty about Boise. We mentioned
New Orleans as well.
New Orleans, yes.
New Orleans,
and then,
Tulsa,
Canton.
New Orleans, Oklahoma, and Seattle are our
New
3
Orleans, Oklahoma,
big
Seattle.
possibilities.
I don't see how you do Seattle without another West Coast team, though. And I do think there's 2 teams that are really deserving of being moved. I've joked with Josh about this 1,000 times. State of Texas should be ashamed. Houston, man, it is. Doesn't matter the branding, right? It doesn't matter. The street people still don't really go there. And if you want to talk about TV markets. As far as the retaining of the copyrights and whatnot, I mean, it costs the league what? It might actually be free to extend a copyright, right? I have no idea about the process of actually getting these, maintaining copyrights for team names and stuff like that, right? I have no idea. Josh, does it cost money actively?
No. So I have a copyright for branding, and you pay a one-time fee. Costs you about $1,200. That's you can copyright state, federal, or worldwide. If you go worldwide, costs you about $1,200. There's no fee to continue to maintain that. It can expire based upon who you hire to do your copywriting and all that stuff. But so there might be fees later. But essentially, once you're done, you're done. And I believe what happened is many of the copyrights that they reported were renewals on copyrights that had expired. So it's not an every year thing. Maybe it's like a 5-year thing, but I do have a copyright on some of the logos that I own.
That's good. That's good and that's smart, Josh. At the end of the day, yes, this isn't the NFL, but what is $1,200 to an entire league when you're talking about not having to come up with a new logo, a new brand? Just if you run the risk of some jackalope, getting your copyright before you, with the name coming out or getting leaked or something like this, right? This is just a league covering their butts. I don't see this as anything definitive. And Josh, I really agree with your last point that if you're serious about it, it needs to have a timeline. Also, just from marketing side of my brain, that's what I went to college for. There wasn't a better time to announce something definitive when it comes to whether that's relocation or actual expansion, right? Going from 8 teams to 10 teams, right? There wasn't a better time to do that than during the UFL championship, right? What at halftime, 9 touchdowns into that damn game. My God, what a game. Maybe we'll talk about that a little bit later. Anyway, that's really mine as far as the copyrights and stuff. And also, I got a job selling marketing out of college as well. Billboards were a big thing. I don't think that completely kills the argument that these teams could do much better with local marketing, right? And there's, yes, we're doing this podcast online and stuff like that, right? There are plenty of spring football fans. I sat next to one of them at a sports book who watched the USFL in the 80s and was so excited this was back in 2020 for COVID and stuff like this. And I was asking about it for the first half of the game, talking about old USFL stuff. And surprise, surprise, guy was in the 70s, and I don't think he pulled out his phone one time, right? You're talking about boots on the ground, real life, like marketing. That's how you get those kinds of fans, like some of the older crowd into games and whatnot, right? It's not always just about 17-year-olds who are falling in love with football for the first time. That's my take on that.
So I'm glad you brought up, because I was going to forget, and this was definitely something I think we should talk about. You talk about teams moving, handle this in a delicate manner, because it's about more than football. But Fred Smith of FedEx passed away last week.
God rest him.
R.I.P. Condolences to the family, friends. Kind of a badass, from what I understand. There's a legend out there that he maybe saved FedEx's existence at a blackjack table once upon a time. Good stuff, man. We respect them American pioneers around here in business and keeping things rolling. FedEx employs a hell of a lot of people. But the thing is, the prevailing assumption is that the reason the showboats seem so stalwart in staying in Memphis, despite the lack of success and despite horrific fan attendance and support, was that Fred Smith was a huge backer of the team coming back, loves the team, and when the time came, the assumption is that the goal at some point is to get big pockets private owners for these teams, was that he would be one of the first and would be a real fine owner to have associated with your league.
Mm-hmm.
Well, unfortunately, as we have just covered, that is no longer a factor. So what do we think that might mean for the future of the show boats? I honestly think it'd be for the best for everyone.
Are the kids into football? Because I seem to remember a grandson or a son being a defensive coordinator at an FCS school.
Head coach. He was the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, and is now the offensive coordinator of the Steelers. Yeah, but I don't know if he's like I don't know if he's like I want to own a sports franchise type of, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yes, that's really the
He has a successful NFL coaching career right now, so I don't know if he's going to be if Arthur Smith existing. I don't know if he's interested in taking over the family, which is crazy, by the way. The CEO of FedEx, his son is former Atlanta Falcons head coach, current OC of the Steelers, Arthur Smith. That's pretty wild. But I don't know if he's like moving into the family business now to run FedEx, or if he's going to continue his coaching. I don't know if that's a factor at all, especially on the timeline that we're operating on here. Do we think maybe the Showboats? I mean, they could get all three, right? Couldn't they? They could move the Showboats and make them the Breakers. They could then bring in an Oklahoma team, bring in a Seattle team, and then bam, you got all three. What do you guys think of that scenario, Josh?
I do not want to see any relocation or any contraction whatsoever. If anything happens, it needs to be expansion to new markets only. We start moving teams around. We're 2 years into this thing. It's way too early to be moving teams around. I do not to stay on track, but to go off track. You know, there was also reports about the struggling markets and dozens of full-time employees being let go in the UFL, mostly on the ticket sales and the folks that are on the ground. You know, a lot of people think about the Arlington hub model, but don't forget that every one of these teams have full-time employees in the cities that they're playing from. And these employees' job are to drum up business, drum up ticket sales, get publicity, and go to events. Speaking of events, shameless plug right here. The San Antonio Brahmas will be hosting a youth training camp, 2 different ones, this Thursday on the 26th of June. And your boy here did get permission from the league to be there as a media to cover the event. So we're gonna get some B-roll. We're gonna interview some kids. Hopefully, they're gonna definitely be Brahmas players and coaches there. So we'll post the video and stuff on social media. So we'll bring that to you on behalf of the United Football Media, not from the cow pasture, but from Hero Stadium here in San Antonio. But with that being said, the accountability of the teams that are struggling, it was the point I was going on to, and the out of season events that are now starting to happen. I mean, we're only 2 weeks out of season, and we've already had multiple youth camps. They're already announcing tryouts, open tryouts in, I think, 4 or 5 different cities. I'd have to look that up to get the exact dates, but I definitely know there's one in Houston because we're considering going to that. But so it's happening. We're having events. We have local marketing being held accountable. We don't want anybody to get fired, and that's not what we're celebrating. What we are celebrating is the market struggled. We're going to make some changes to try to correct that. So the league is doing what it needs to do. And I would point out that I have talked to the folks with the San Antonio Brahmas, and the Brahmas have pretty much avoided being caught up in that, the dreaded position changes and what they are calling organizational changes, I believe is a term they're using. But some teams did not. So I think that is the correct move. Do the changes you need to change. Try to drum up more support locally. And, man, whatever you do, don't move a team. You can expand. That's up to you. I don't do the dollars and cents league. Obviously, you're looking at the money. But, man, do not relocate a team. There will be so much bad publicity, and it's just going to be a third season where we go into the league. We went from merger. Everyone's going to fold. The league's going to fold. Then we went to strike. Nobody's happy. The league's not making any money. This whole year was attendance sucks. Then if we get into relocation, you're going to go into year 3 being your own worst enemy. You are the reason that people are not confident in the league. So let's just get through a nice, quiet offseason and talk about football on the field.
Anything to piggyback on that there, Tug?
So this is the first time that I think we've talked about that since I came down to San Antonio, Josh, which was obviously during the regular season. My opinion since then you make some really, really good points, right? That the entire idea of success is going to be founded upon consistency, right? And even if they're not necessarily doing the thing about local marketing and getting more localized on and stuff like that is that you can do stuff today, tomorrow, and the day after that. It's not just a foregone conclusion, right? It's just like, oh, well, we did in the past, we can't do it now. Like, you can change that any day, right? And so I actually think I tend to lean towards Are you talking about Memphis and Houston, or all 8 teams? Period. End of story. Need to stay the same because
I don't
Memphis
want nobody
TV
moving.
markets, man, attendance. Brutal. I know that Memphis game got delayed by like 2 hours or something like that, but I think it was less than 3,000 people who went to it and stuff like this. Head coaching, how many head coaching changes there and whatnot? How many? I don't know. I'm split.
Give him another year. Give
I
him
feel like
another
I was.
year.
Yeah,
on.
I feel like I
Year.
was stone set upon relocating at least Memphis, if not Memphis and Houston. Before you said that, now I'm on the fence. Now I'm more 50-50. I'll admit that. What's more important to me? I think if gun to my head, I think what's more important to me, like you said, is consistency. I think I'd have to lean if I had to go one way, I think I'd have to lean a little bit more towards you now. Looking at the long run, right? Like everybody wants 10 teams. I despise leagues that have half the teams in the league going to the playoffs. I always rant about that. Like, I mean, what the NBA, the NHL, I can excuse it because of longer series and stuff like that. I don't really watch the NBA as much. I should say that, but like all the wild card stuff in the NFL and stuff like that. I feel like the top third of a league should have a chance at the playoffs. Period. End of story. That's a rant for another time, perhaps. Though. That's one of the reasons why I want 10 teams, though, is so that 4 can go on.
So speaking of sitting on the fence, there was recently introduced, it was just announced there's going to be a UFL free agency now.
Yes.
Everybody that's been with a team for 2 and this had so many things running through my mind. In the chat we've discussed, obviously it won't be happening this year, but possibly in the future. To me, it would be a good idea to have like tiered deals. Like say a team could have three guys on a 3-year deal for $90K a year and 4 guys on a 2-year deal for $70K a year. And then everybody else on a 1-year deal for $60K a year. You know what I'm saying? Or something like that, where you have like a limited amount of super deals to give out. Because to me, if everybody's on 2-year deals, then everybody's a free, you know what I'm saying? You just have like this uneven pool that happens on a regular cycle, but that's later on down the road. What the news is that the UFL is introducing free agency in such a way that basically after 2 years, if you've been on a team for 2 years, you are free to switch to another team if you would like to, if you feel like that's a better opportunity. Which again kind of raises the issue that like a lot of the stalwart players that we all know have been on the same teams for 2 years. So basically everybody, all of those names, basically everybody, the DC Defenders just won the championship. I don't know if you were aware of that tugboat, but the DC Defenders just won the championship. Basically everyone who's
we made it 22 minutes. We made it 22 minutes.
Basically everybody who's a stud on that team has been on the team for 2 years. It would also apply to Bryce Perkins for the Panthers, Ginda for the Panthers, basically Ciosa Mariner for the Panthers, a bunch of guys who were studs both years. All of them can switch now, and that's why I would like to see maybe a little more staggered, but incentivized type of, and like maybe only the team, like a bird rule, like the NBA, like only the team that you're on already can offer you the 3-year gig, something like that. But in general, it's going to be interesting because that means Jordan Tiamu, Bryce Perkins, basically every stud player we just saw in that championship game are all technically free agents. Yeah. All the dudes who are studs on the Brahmas, Jontre Kirkland, Trayvon Williams, I can't remember the linebacker's name right now. The stud linebacker that's on the Brahmas, the center, Tecklenburg, also like all of those guys are technically free agents and can go wherever they want. So I like the idea. I like where it's heading, but there's potential to like really kind of blow up some teams here, because basically every stud player that we know of in the league who's like good is been on the same team for 2 years and are now free agents and free to go wherever they want. What are your thoughts, Josh?
So we actually already had some players that were in the 2-year window. I'll give you an example. San Antonio, Delonte Scott was here with the XFL, played both seasons, spoke to, Coach Acuff. If you guys watched the bullpen, we had Coach Acuff come in down there, do a great interview, talk to him a little bit about Delonte Scott. The team chose not to have him back on the roster for their own reasons, but So that made it to where he was one of the players that spent 2 years and was released, and he played for Birmingham this year. Played in over 100 snaps for Birmingham, to be quite honest with you. I'll share a quote from Moose on this topic. He's asking, how do you create continuity? Probably said that wrong, but if people watch my episode, they're used to that. My channel, they're used to that. Able to retain those guys with other teams coming in and picking some higher profile, more successful players out of the league, i.e., a quarterback, running back that's maybe number 2 on your team, but would be number 1 on my team. He says he thinks it's going to make the offseason fun and help the league grow and help younger players to grow and mature. And we all know that the NFL and NBA, these other pro leagues, are year-round action, man. You got, like tonight, we're going to be watching the NBA draft. Go Spurs. But that's what we're going to get into. We're going to start seeing roster moves. We're going to start seeing transactions. We're going to start seeing news come out all the time and make this more – it's not going to get year-round because we're a 10-week season, but I think it's nothing but good. I also think it allows players – it's maybe one small, teeny, tiny step to players becoming professional UFL players. We have professional NFL players. We got the UFL, whose goal is to get to the NFL. Maybe with free agency and the league growth and these different things happening, we're taking these little incremental steps, to where a guy might just say, you know what, dude, I can be a pro athlete in the UFL and have a side hustle on the side, make $100K a year, $150K a year, have a good life, and play football for 10 weeks a year. So it's kind of like a small baby step to that. So I'm all for it, and I can't wait to see it, and it'll give us something to tweet and complain about.
Especially if they're all basing themselves down there in the great state of Texas. You can live yourself a damn fine life down there on a 120, 150K a year. And you're
hell yeah. Hell yeah. And I'm going to tell you another thing. Earlier I mentioned I didn't want to interrupt Tugboat, but he said something about Texas should be ashamed of himself. Sir, that is not a word we even use as a Texan. If someone is in this state talking about being ashamed of themselves,
attendance.
They must Football be a California relocate, because we're not ashamed of nothing here.
But that's kind of what I was getting at when I was talking about the different tiered contracts. Like that also would be, to me, like the ultimate step on, and that was kind of the guise under which I was thinking about this when I was thinking about the free agency and thinking about, well, that would be a good next step, like a 3-year players, 2-year players, 1-year players, to stagger it. Like at that point, you start getting up into those just a little bit more. We're real close. Yep. You could just be a UFL player, and it's not a bad thing to be. And if you're one of the best players, you're one of those 3-year bird rule guys. Hey, $90K and your health insurance paid for in the great state of Texas. You're doing it big down there. You got the big Cadillac in that situation. So,
bro, you can buy a whole cow pasture on you. Make $90K here. You can literally buy a cow pasture. Trust me.
There you go. Gonna be Josh's neighbor.
Yeah. Thoughts on UFL free agency becoming a thing?
Definitely a good thing overall. Like this is definitely something that I like overall. I'm never going to complain about something that gives individual players more agency to go forth and, like you said, live stable lives now that with health insurance and stuff. Now Texas has no state income as well, or no state income tax. Right? Just like
Correct.
Nevada, just like yeah, okay, gotcha. Yeah, so that is obviously big thing right there. My only question is how they're going to do it, right? Because how do you? I said something while you were talking earlier, Arik. I apologize for that, but don't these players all get paid the same except for quarterbacks, right? And so my question is, how do they incentivize beyond just, hey, like you're a number 2 over here, you can be a number 1 over on my squad?
I think that's going to be it.
These players
ultimately, these guys want to get on the field, and they want to get possibly back to the NFL or some sort of invite.
And that's the other thing.
That it would be that's what they said. It's opportunity based. It's basically you can go to another team that you feel gives you a better opportunity. And that was, I think, the example that Josh was given with the Brahmas guy that went over to the Stallions.
Gotcha. Yeah, so without money, so basically it's about playability, and then the follow up to that is I would just have to know how these contracts, because all of them are trying to get back to the NFL, unless it's a situation that Josh just described, right? You like the hustle and bustle, going around traveling all over the country constantly, 18 weeks plus more if you're going to the postseason and stuff like that, right? Like that. This is a hustle and bustle that some guys may just decide, hey, living in Texas, playing like this, like you said, 128K a year, plop my rear end down in a cow pasture somewhere and really, really enjoy it, because that sounds like a fantastic life, honestly, right? But how would those contracts then be respected or not paid or paid back or whatever else like that if a player goes on and goes to the NFL? Now, that's not something that I'm saying that I need the personal details of the contract, the legalese of how this is going down, right? I'm not saying like that, but it's just it'd be curious, because obviously at a certain point, a UFL player in that situation, their concern would be less about money because they're going on to the higher league there. So my question is how they incentivize outside of promising positions,
And
and that's
I
a
just
whole
want
other
to
kettle of worms.
I'll just want to clarify one thing. I know I made a broad statement of like 100K a year, whatever. We know these players are making 50, 60K a year, and then they get their playoff checks, and so they can go up. But
10
then
weeks.
every Brahmas player that I had the opportunity to talk to, and there's quite a few of them, all have something else going on. One guy owns a tattoo parlor. Another guy has a where he trains other high school athletes. They do coaching clinics where they're paid coaching clinics. So these guys all got that little side hustle that gives them the opportunity to then play ball. And it's like this perfect little niche that they're in. And so that's what I'm saying. You can make your 50, 60K here, and then you go over here and you do your side hustle for the other, 10 months or 9 months a year. You make your other 40, 50K like us, working class folk do, I guess, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, I think that if you love football and you can make a decent living doing it like that. We do want to see the salaries go up to the point one day where they don't have to do side hustles. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying that's where we're at right now. So they can make it happen.
Well, one thing I do want to run by, since we're doing all this great discussion about the great state of Texas.
Howdy.
I mean, for real though, once we start getting into this decision-making process and we talk about quality of life and money, the Arlington squad starts to become kind of attractive in my mind, because you're doing half the travel of everybody else, right? You're basing out of Arlington. You got a soft travel schedule. Not bad. I feel like Arlington becomes more attractive the more further down the road we get with these limited contracts or staggered contracts or free agency. I feel like Arlington becomes more and more attractive if you're trying to live down there a stable life with a family and you're providing for them and you're basing out of there. You got half the travel. That's a pretty easy money if it's a 10-week season and you only got to travel 5 weeks of it. Shoot, I'm not mad about that at all for that kind of money.
Yeah, like Arlington, DC would be a little bit too rough, like twice. Yeah, that's literally the farthest you go outside of Michigan once a 10-week season, right? That
Counterpoint. As a professional who gets to travel about 6 times a year for work, of course, mine spread out over months. Sometimes it's fun to travel. You get that
back-to-back weeks of playing.
Yeah. I don't know, but it'd be cool. Like if you do have a wife and 4 kids, maybe you would like a weekend down in San Antonio just to play some ball and be in a hotel room. I mean, I'm just throwing it out there.
It's a good point. I mean, I've traveled in like workplaces and stuff like that. It is nice, right? Like I'm already getting the hotel room like paid for and stuff like this, right? I would share the room and go forth and do whatever we want to on the next day after the broadcast finishes and stuff. The competition's finished. Sorry, Arik.
All right, time wise, we only got time for one. Bring it to the table topic, so I'm going to let Josh go.
30 minutes already, yeah.
Next time it'll be a lot more because hopefully maybe we won't have as much UFL stuff to clean up in the show. So, Josh, what do you got for us this week? Tell me about it.
Well, my bring it to the table thing, I kind of already teased it. I wanted to make sure everybody knew there are in-market team events happening. And United Football Media will be there to cover it for you every chance we get. And my other thing was about the changes at local market level. So both of my topics were local market. And I do like the league making adjustments. I don't like people losing positions. Don't get me wrong. I've been laid off before, and it made me sick to my stomach for 2 years after it happened. And I still sometimes get mad thinking about it 15 or 20 years later. So I don't want that. But I do like the accountability aspect of it. Your market struggled. We need to do something different. Let's get somebody in there with some drive, some ambition, some fresh ideas. Fresh ideas would probably be the most key thing, because obviously if you only got 1,500 people at your game, whatever idea you used to promote that game wasn't very good. So I like all that, and that's my topic. Kudos to the league. Let's keep that home market energy focus going. I know that they talked about that at media days up there, not media days, but at the championship media call there. It was definitely a point of emphasis for Danny and for Moose, and Russ Brandon's also commented on it. So keep it up. Keep those home markets as a forefront. And, man, we need to get 20K plus in every stadium. Let's go.
Agreed.
So, okay, so we'll do a little bit of off UFL stuff here. So colleges can play players directly now. You guys, you two go. No, I'm joking. We're going to do that next week. We're going to do that next week. We don't got enough time for that right now. I was like, I can't wait. I'm going to sneak attack both of these guys with it because I feel like you guys are going to be on opposite ends of the spectrum on your feelings on this. But we'll do it next week. I do want to say real quick, though, maybe we can do a little – we don't got it exactly – we don't have to do the merits of it. Real quick, this will be a very quick topic, and then we'll circle back. Aaron Rodgers says it's his last year. Are you heartbroken?
No, but no, but I'm excited to watch it. I want to see. I want to see it. I'm there for either the success or the train wreck. I want to watch it.
Me and Josh have been agreeing too much on this episode.
I guess what we'll discuss the merits of this the next time because there isn't enough time right now. But what I have talked about a lot on our DAR college football show is every time something like this happens, when the NIL stuff happens, when the SEC and the Big Ten are throwing their weight around, it's looking an awful lot like they're going to have their own league within the next – basically whenever they have a chance to get a new TV deal, they're going to have their own league. I'm just breaking it to you guys now if you didn't already know that. And now – the universities can pay the players directly. That's just happened. Every time that something like this, a new development happens, I see people everywhere. I see people on Twitter screaming about how this is the sport is destroyed. College football is destroyed. It's completely ruined the game. And I just want to ask how? With all this new stuff, did that Texas A&M Notre Dame game, did that feel any different to you? Hell no, it did not. We're still there on Saturdays. We're still there on Saturdays. There's still young folks getting excited, getting out there and getting an opportunity. The rivalries are still there. The passion is still there. The games are still huge. Okay, so a few people transfer. A couple of players who you'll forget by the time the next year comes transfer. There's a couple of players who are obviously goofballs who have some sort of mental condition where they need constant attention and constant adulation, and they've transferred like 8 times. There's a few of those. But in general, the sport is still the sport. The playoffs were awesome. Those big games that you go to down there at Kyle Field, 12th man, are still awesome. They still feel the same. It's not ruining the sport, and this ain't going to ruin the sport either. What are your thoughts on the merits of that there, Josh?
Well, I will tell you this. I don't think NIL or paying the players are ruining the game. What is ruining the game is the playoff expansion, in my opinion. Because I remember literally just 5 years ago, you lost your 3rd game of the season. Your season was over. That regular season meant something. The reason why these stadiums get 100 – Texas A&M gets over 100,000 on every single game. 103, 104, 105. I was there one time with like 112,000 people. Okay, then there's another 100,000 outside the stadium. Okay, what it does do is devalue what those games mean because you lost week 3, your season was done. You did not have a chance to make the playoff and win a national championship, and that's what all these big-time, big boy schools want, a natty. So the one thing that I think is putting pressure on the league and devaluing it is the expansion of the playoffs. So the money and paying players is great. Do it. Give them all the money. Quit asking me for money. The Booster 12-man foundations, literally, they used to look. You guys know I donate. I'm a season ticket holder.
Yeah.
I'm actually not to toot my own horn right now. I'm in the top 40% of donors up at Texas A&M. Hey, I've been.
He doesn't
what I'm
even
saying
own
is
an oil field.
I have 4. Anyways,
There you go.
the thing is that they got to at some point stop it, because where does it end? You know, they're talking about players with $4 or $5 million deals, and they're going to get $10, $11 million deals. There's going to be donor fatigue, so they better find a way of capping it. Because believe me, I've sensed it as well, and I have friends that are feeling it as well. So that's going to happen. So they better figure out a way of controlling it. But other than that, I think the playoffs is the biggest problem. I'm sorry for taking long, Tugboat. The floor is yours, sir.
I do agree. Real quick. I do agree. There's nothing like the college football regular season. And I think that this year with this number, it was a bit of a sweet spot. Like, yeah, those other early games were a little less important, but at the same time, we were deep into October and the first week of November with still tons of stuff to play for. Like usually, but that's what you used to get in college football is you would get to November, October, and half the teams, it would be just for nothing. Now we had something like, I believe when we did it on the DAR college football show, there was like 6 games that still had like teams that needed to do something and their seasons were on the line all the way in November. So I think we were at a decent spot with the number we're at. And not only is it going to make it less fun in the regular season, but I think the reason that they're expanding this is to stave off what is inevitable anyways. They're expanding it so that more SEC and Big Ten teams can be in it. That's what's happening because they're getting bullied by those 2 leagues. But those 2 leagues are going to leave eventually anyway. It's going to happen. The NCAA is already getting to the point. There already is stuff from Sankey, from both commissioners of both the Big Ten and the SEC, where they said, I don't really know what the NCAA does for us. I don't know what their use for us is. And the answer is nothing. So it's going to happen. So why mess with your playoffs? You know what I mean? That's the only reason it's happening. And I don't blame the SEC and the Big Ten. Like, you know, if you got it, if you got the power, then flex the muscle, like do it. But I just don't. You're bowing to them, and you're ruining your regular season for something that's going to happen. They're going to leave. They're going to farm their own league, and it's going to be kind of a amateur NFL. But that's what college football, big time college football, is, anyways. So I don't know. I agree with you on that, Tug. Your thoughts on what it is doing to the game?
To the game. One thing I'm very surprised that neither of you mentioned at all are bowl games, right? These things have been going on for 100+ years, and that's really my main problem with all this stuff, right? I was talking about earlier how I hate where you have a league where half the teams get in. Well, you know, for a long time, we had none of them, right? And then for a long time, you had your bowl games for that kind of like supplanting those opportunities for amazing things. I am looking forward to so much going to the Rose Bowl for my first time whenever I do finally get to go there, right? And I hope and I pray that I'm not going to have to do it this freaking year, because who knows if there's actually going to be an impactful game played there in the future, right? That's my main problem with these playoffs, right? Because there's no perfect place to put them when the transfer portal window is when it is, right? And with the rules that they have to be at the school they're going to play at, right? On the first day of classes, right? Josh, you went to college, right? Like
yes, sir.
Yeah. So first week of class, everybody knows, and then their own transfer portal, right, for classes and stuff like this, right? That nothing really gets done in the first week. Why is that the rule? But like that even so, if you change that rule, then you get farther and farther away from them actually being student athletes, which plenty of them actually are. I'm not sure if you guys have seen the comments from the Norris Sellers and his father talking about how he was offered gobs and gobs and gobs of money. He said, "Son, you're 19 years old and you don't need $9 million. You're great where you're at." His brother's coming in this year as well, and he's more focusing on playing the sport of football, right? And
someone
also
slapped that dad.
I'm sorry?
Someone slapped the dad. Everybody needs $9 million.
Nah. 19 years old. Have you seen him play? I think you have, because I remember that Texas A&M game this past. All right. Anyway, sorry. I'm getting too tribal with it here with the SEC stuff. My point is this, and that is that going back to what I said, man, I really, really hope that I don't have to go this year to the Rose Bowl to watch an impactful game there, because the playoffs is destroying this awesome tradition that has gone back for, in some cases, like 130 years, right? And that's my main concern with this. I'm not against expanded playoffs whatsoever. And it's obvious the writing is on the wall why they're doing this, right? You just said it. 120,000 people, 112,000 people packed that mother because they have games and they're exciting to watch, right? Why wouldn't they want to have a playoff game? Who wouldn't want to go to a playoff game when you have 112 people going there during the regular season? Now, yes, it might mean a little bit less, but the thing is, if Texas A&M gets to the playoffs, then people are going to go to that game. They're going to pack that and be shoulder to shoulder. You said 100,000 people out there tailgating. There's going to be 200,000 out there tailgating, and every single one of them is buying a funnel cake and buying a case of beer and driving in and buying gas and paying for like that is money coming in. It is so obvious what's going on with all that. And my last point is that if you're a player and you go and you sign something for a team and then you keep the money and you go and play for another school, that in any other case in America is called larceny. If it's beyond a certain amount, that is called grand larceny. That is thievery. That is theft. And when it especially kills me when it happens to some of these smaller schools, right? Especially when yes, I was born and raised out in South Carolina, diehard University of South Carolina Gamecocks fan, of course. I'm out here in Las Vegas now. Mountain West School, UNLV, Boise State just went to the playoffs and stuff, and these teams get poached constantly, like a rhinoceros with two horns. It's insane how much they get poached. Anyway, that's my rant over. Sorry.
I'm using that one. I'm using that one. Rhinoceros with two horns. I'm using it. I'm using it.
One thing I will say, maybe this will bomb it, and I hope it happens. I think it's logical. My argument is I think that the national championship should always be in the Rose Bowl. That should be the last one. Now, you'll have to move it off on New Year's Day. Either that, I know, right? Cotton Bowl right there. But if you're going to rotate it, it should be Rose Bowl, Cotton Bowl, Orange Bowl, Fiesta Bowl. Like, rotate the national championship game and then make the Rose Bowl its own thing the years it's not.
I'm pretty sure that's what they do. It's just a Rose Bowl, the one that wants their thing at their time every year, no matter what. And so
that makes sense. Like,
that's part of the Rose Bowl. Part of the Rose Bowl is the sunset and the time,
exactly,
and it's part of the whole thing. I just don't think the Rose Bowl should be a playoff game. That's like on the road to, you know what I mean? The Rose Bowl should either be the national championship or it should be the Rose Bowl. That's my feeling.
With conference playoffs games, right? Because there's teams like Notre Dame that are actively benefiting from not having to play in these things, not having to constantly camp for them, not have to prepare for them and stuff like this.
It's a whole nother episode.
Well, they'll never get a bye as well. So, there's also that.
Buys are horrible in general as well. I'm an SEC guy. Buys are a terrible way to do any kind of playoff. For college sports, not for pros. Sorry, probably something for another episode as well.
Well, as you all can see out there, we've got plenty of gas left in the tank for next week. We won't have as much UFL stuff to clean up. So jump in here with us. I'm sure we'll be continuing the college football conversation. Maybe sneak some NFL stuff in here. We'll have some other guests coming in with their own stuff to bring to the table. We hope this has been a good time for you. This is what we plan on doing for you guys weekly, while we're waiting for the UFL to come back, so that you 2,000 awesome, lovely subscribers are not left starving out here with nothing through the whole season. We'll be here for you. Laying it down. This is United Football Media. Tell me about it.